looking. Where do we start? Let's start, number one, from we were talking about some flash flood watches and warnings. There was a dam that we got an update on just a few moments ago, and I think it highlighted late yesterday in Oxford that just it's getting real close to being in danger.
We have seen some significant rainfall throughout the state of Mississippi over the last 2 or 3 days, significantly in the Mississippi Delta, the North Mississippi Delta. I know you had the Mayor Clarksdale on just recently in the Oxford area as well. We did have to evacuate a neighborhood that was downstream in South Oxford late yesterday afternoon. My understanding is that they are back in. Again, these natural disasters keep coming, and they're going to continue to do so, and we just got to be prepared to deal with them.
Let's talk COVID first of all, because we get a little bit of a breathing room. Yesterday we had 107 new cases, but statewide that's not bad. Attributed deaths to this, I think yesterday was 4. Where are we now across the state?
Well, we're in a significantly better position than we've been at any time during the pandemic. If you go back to, if you look at total hospitalizations, under 150. If you look at total number of patients in ICU beds, it's under 50. At our peak, Paul, we had about 2,400 cases per day over a 7-day moving average. That number is down to about 110 cases, so we've had less than 800 cases over the last 7 days. And so the good news is that the individuals that are getting vaccinated, the vaccines work, they are safe, they are effective. So the good news is that in aggregate we are 95, 96, 97% below our peaks, but we still have people in hospital beds. We still have people that are unfortunately succumbing to this virus, and so I just want to encourage everyone to look at your friends and neighbors if you have not gotten vaccinated and see if they've had any negative outcomes, because by and large, at least through the first 6 months of this particular vaccination period, we've done almost 1.1 million Mississippians have gotten at least one dose. And so, again, when you look at that and combine it with the number of people in our state that have natural immunity from having had the virus, it's a pretty significant number of Mississippians.
Maybe because of our primitive age, we look at this with more astounding a gap that we can't fill in, but I don't think so. I don't think it has anything to do with age. And I read a story from Washington State a few minutes ago where the people in Washington State, the government, the health department, is actually offering a free joint. I don't know if you heard of this, that are actually offering a free joint in relationship with their cannabis in the organizations if you'll come in and get your shot. It's just, it doesn't add up.
That is an interesting approach, Paul. I will tell you that for me, and there are a number of states around the country that are offering incentives to get these holdouts to go in and get their vaccine. For me, the potential for safety is enough incentive. But we're certainly having conversations with Dr. Dobbs and his team about trying to get more and more Mississippians vaccinated. But here's the deal, Paul. If you are in Mississippi and you want to get a vaccine, it is available to you.
Free of charge.
It is free of charge. It is available in virtually every county across the state. It's close to individuals. Everyone has access to it. And so if you choose not to get it, which I do not recommend, but if you choose not to get it, then you understand the risk associated with being without a vaccine, and that there can be still negative outcomes from the virus. Again, we're in a very different spot today than we've been at any time during the pandemic, and I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of the efforts of Mississippians. It's been a difficult road to hoe, but Mississippians have stepped up and done good things, and we're in a much better spot.
Are you satisfied with where we are with the people getting vaccines as far as the employees and the staff at places like long-term care facilities and nursing homes?
Well, we could always do better, and we're going to continue to work to improve that. At our peak, we had, Paul, approximately 225 long-term care facilities that had COVID outbreaks. Yesterday, that was 16. Now, that is still 16 too many, because we know that those individuals in those long-term care facilities are our most vulnerable Mississippians when it comes to getting the virus, because they tend to be older and have more health risk and comorbidities, et cetera. So we could always do better. But to go from 225 at our peak down to 16 certainly is a major accomplishment.
Any changes on, or there's anything left as far as the mask restrictions right now?
We have no restrictions in Mississippi.
There's nothing. If they are, they're voluntary from some of the people.
They're not from state government.
This came up at the beginning. I think it was over the weekend, and I texted you about it, and we had some other people, and just trying to find out was it a rumor or whatever. It was going to be a Monday meeting at one of the schools. I think this was at Madison. The people, the voters, the people in the state are so charged up now with the things like CRT, which I want to ask you about next segment, and the mask regulations, that I think the good news is they're going to become proactive and more involved in the next school year, which I hope they are. But according to what came out of the meeting is that they're just watching and waiting to see what happens, and whatever the regulations are, they might right now follow those. Is that what you hear as far as schools, beginning of the year, of masks?
That's my understanding. That there will not be any mask requirements by state government. And so, Paul, the issue that we have to look at as we progress forward, during this particular school year, we were in a position in Mississippi when we began the year back in August, the first week of August of last year, by the way, which it's kind of it would be humorous were it not so sad to hear the president and his team talk about it. Now it's finally time to get kids back in school, when in our state they've been in school since the first week of August. But if you'll recall, when we started school, the vaccine was not available to anyone. It wasn't available to teachers until approximately February of this year, and it wasn't really available to young kids over the age of 12 until literally in the last month or so. But going into August of the next school year, the 21-22 school year, the vaccine's available to every teacher. The vaccine's available to every individual over the age of 12, should they choose to get it. And so the risk associated with being in that classroom, even in very small in small classrooms with larger numbers, is significantly less for those individuals who are looking at that. And so I don't anticipate, I don't see any scenario in which we would have any mask requirements in the state of Mississippi, unless it's done at the local level, and that's why it's very important. And that may be one very good thing that comes out of COVID is I do think parents across Mississippi and across America are going to get very engaged in what's going on in their local school districts, because we're going to see significant disparities for learning for those kids that have been in school districts, that have been in the classroom, when compared to those school districts that have not.
Well, and as a person who's a member of the Neanderthals, and we understand that comment, and now they're having to eat their words up there, because you take a look at places like Washington, state of Washington, and other places. Those folks are riled up. As you said, some of them haven't gone back to school. They've got the restrictions out there, and people are they've had enough. So much to ask you. What's the latest on a possible special session? Look at revenues. How close do we get to $1 billion over the estimates? And also, where's the study committee as far as personal income tax? And I want to throw in CRT, too. If I could just get to those, we would be doing good. All coming up next with the governor. I see. Let's talk about revenue, because we're about 20 days away from the end, drawing the line and hitting the total button, starting the new fiscal year. What does it look like?
Revenues are doing exceptionally well, Paul. I've been on your show many times over the last 6 months or so, and we are approaching $1 billion to the good. Having collected $1 billion more than was anticipated to be collected this particular fiscal year. We're in the best financial shape. We're in the best fiscal shape Mississippi's ever been in. And just to put this in perspective, when I ran for state treasurer, Paul, a number of years ago, I did it because we had a fiscal mess in our state. If you'll recall, in 2003, the Mississippi legislature had spent $720 million in one-time money on recurring expenditures. They've robbed from Peter to pay Paul with both hands, and it really is the reason that I decided to run for public office, is to get, because I felt like we needed someone that had a background in economics and finance involved in the government process. And so to go from $720 million in the hole to $1 billion to the good, while having already enacted the largest tax cut in Mississippi history just 5 years ago, I couldn't be more proud of what's happening. Our economy is going very, very well. And once these unemployment benefits run out at the end of this week, we're going to get more Mississippians back to work, and we're going to see even more strong economic activity.
By the way, our rainy day fund back in those days of that $720 million deficit was zero.
For all intents and purposes, It was zero.
We were bankrupt on the rainy day fund, which is quite different now. I think we got what? Is it full, or is it?
It is well over $500 million, and as you recall, half of revenue at June 30th that is collected that has not been allocated will go into that rainy day fund. So we will probably have a rainy day fund that is in and of itself approaching $1 billion.
To all those out there asking this question, wait a minute, isn't a lot of federal money that we got? Some of that is federal dollars on that $1 billion overestimate, but not a lot of it, is it?
None of it is.
Is it sales tax increases?
It is sales tax increases. It is income tax increases. And now we have gotten a lot of federal money that has been spent, that has been allocated, that has been appropriated. We're getting more federal money over the next couple of months, but in terms of the over $900 million in revenues collected in this fiscal year, that is all state money.
I was just getting more pictures in. Some pictures just coming in from Parchman, and some roads in the rural areas of Tallahatchie County also are flooded over. So people do be careful. And some of these little rural roads, especially if there's a bio or drainage ditch somewhere nearby, do be careful. So the special session, your thoughts. This is a constant question every single day. Medical marijuana. As of this moment, 8:41 on a Thursday morning, where does the governor stand?
Well, I stay in the same position that I have over the last few weeks since the court case came down. Just to remind all of our fellow Mississippians, we really have two issues that need to be addressed, and I am for addressing both of them. The first issue is with respect to the initiative process itself. The Mississippi Supreme Court said that the initiative process was not constitutional because of its specific mention of 5 congressional districts versus 4. So that has to be fixed. But for that to be fixed, it has to go before the Mississippi legislature. It then has to go before the Mississippi voters. We do not have a true statewide election in our state until November of 2022. And so my view is we need to sit down. We need to have conversations regarding the ballot initiative process. We don't need to let it not have one for a long period of time, but I do believe that November 2022 is the right time for us to fix that particular process. The second issue, and it's very different, of course, is the fact that some 70+% of Mississippi voters went to the polls and said that they wanted a medical marijuana program in our state. I do not believe that I do not believe that the legislature should ignore the will of the people, and therefore it is incumbent upon our leadership in the House and the Senate to come to a consensus on what that medical marijuana program looks like. I commend both the Senate Public Health as well as the Senate Medicaid Committee have been holding hearings over the last several weeks to determine all the very complicated issues to make sure that they are ready to file a bill. You'll recall that the state Senate had passed a bill during the 2021 legislative session that would have gone into effect and become law if in the event that the Supreme Court overturned the ballot initiative, which they ultimately did. That bill did not fare as well in the Mississippi House, and so it's conversations are ongoing, and it doesn't make sense, Paul, in my opinion, to bring legislators in to have conversations, to have committee meetings, et cetera, and cost $30,000 a day to do it. But so we've got to get it done.
You're waiting on them to say, Governor, I think we're ready.
Well, I'm not waiting on them to say, Governor, I think we're ready. We are trying to lead the conversation and lead the discussion to get to the right solution so that we can very quickly come in and pass a bill.
Do you know what stage that those committees are in now?
Well, there's
a lot of moving parts to this, and as you said, you don't want to come in ill-prepared.
We need to get this done. We need to get it done quickly, but we also need to get it done right, and that's imperative that we do that again in a quick fashion. But there are many moving parts. There are a lot of decisions that have to be made, and we need to get this right on the front end.
You know where the the House stands as far as the income tax issue is concerned. The Senate is in a study committee. I'm not sure if they haven't started those yet, or are you being kept apprised of where they are in that process?
I am, and here's the good news, Paul. The good news is that after I proposed eliminating the income tax in my executive budget recommendation last year, since that time, both the Lieutenant Governor and the Speaker are on record supporting the elimination of the income tax. And so now we're talking about how we're going to get it done. What is the right way in which to do it? I would argue in a fiscal year in which we're almost $1 billion over revenue projections, the best place to start is to start taking some of that $1 billion and sending it back to the people because I believe that the people know better how to spend their money than any governmental entity ever will. And so I have been in a lot of conversations with leadership in the Senate regarding their process, and they're having conversations. They're going to have hearings here, if not this month, very, very soon. And I think that, and I'm hopeful that we will get to a point where we can make this happen, because I really do believe that it will lead to even more sustained economic growth and prosperity in our state.
We've got more and more people speaking out against CRT, the critical race theory. I had a couple of stories in the stack today, and many of them, believe it or not, are black educators with national prominence. Your statement as far as our schools, we haven't heard anybody talk about that right now, and your statement to anybody who thinks that might creep into the Mississippi curriculums.
Well, I'm adamantly opposed to critical race theory sneaking into our curriculums in the state of Mississippi. I am not aware of any school district that currently allows for it. Should that become an issue, I believe we ought to pass legislation, pass a law to make these school districts unable to teach CRT in our classrooms. We've seen that in other states. I'm willing to do it. We don't have to do it if no districts are currently operating. But if that becomes apparent, I am prepared to support any legislation that eliminates the ability for CRT to be taught in Mississippi's classrooms, much like many, many, many states around the country.
You finally found a way to get rid of Brad White?
Well,
I say that jokingly, of course.
Oh, no question. Yeah. Look,
your thoughts on losing him?
Brad White has done a fantastic job as my chief of staff, just like he's served the state of Mississippi well in Washington and other capacities. I told him as we worked through this entire process that should it work out, it would be a loss to Tate Reeves, but it would be a great day and a win for Mississippi. And I'm more interested in Mississippi winning than anything else.
I got one more segment, but I got to ask you this, because when we had Ryan Miller on, a great appointee, and the others, people that you've put together, the Inflex and everything else that's going on, they all say that the phones are ringing. Man, things look pretty good out there economically, and there may be some other things that's around the corner to announce. Final segment, can you hang on? It's a short one.
I'm looking forward to it.
The governor, final two. But I do want to mention a couple of things that we were talking about, and that's the business climate in the state of Mississippi. And we heard from Max the other day. We were talking to him too, and he says, even in the last 4 years, it seems like now it's the phone's ringing more than ever. Your thoughts?
Well, there's no question that we have made tremendous progress in our state. We've worked for years to build a business-friendly climate, and it's coming home to roost. We've been successful. You mentioned some of the hires that we've made in the last year and a half. Many of them are young, they're talented, and most importantly, they're aggressive. I meet with our MDA team once a week. I met with Ryan Miller. You mentioned him, I believe, yesterday.
Yeah.
It may have been the day before. He's running what's going to be called Accelerate Mississippi, which is our workforce development and workforce training component in our state. He's doing a fantastic job. I'm excited being around these folks because they're excited about the future of Mississippi. They're from here. They love it here. They want to create an environment that makes others want to come here and invest capital and create jobs. Just one example, Paul, Milwaukee Tool. Milwaukee Tool is going to increase their number of employees in Mississippi from 2,300 to 3,500, 1,200 new jobs for Mississippians. It's a good company, and they're going to invest in a new building in Grenada, Mississippi, which is going to be great, not only for that area but really for our entire state.
I know we're always trying to put this thing together as far as the community colleges and the workforce and everything else, and we've done a good job, I think, in the last 5 or 10 years, an amazing job. Where do you want to see that? Where do you want to see that go?
Well, the reality is that the Mississippi legislature in 2020 passed what I think will ultimately become just tremendous legislation, which creates this entity that we are going to call Accelerate Mississippi, which is overseen by the private sector. It's the State Workforce Investment Board will oversee this entity. We have a revenue stream in place to help fund it, and it's going to help coordinate. We're going to work with our community colleges. We're going to work with our K through 12 institutions as well as our institutions of higher learning to build that model which attracts business and industry into our state. I couldn't be more excited or more optimistic about our future because our legislature is working with us to create serious opportunities for Mississippians, and it's all about that. It's not about headlines or anything else. It's about creating opportunities for Mississippians who are out there going to work every single day.
One more thing as far as the special sessions, how late is too late to call?
I don't think there is such a thing as too late. You can do a special session during the regular session. It's about making sure that we can get it done and get it done quick.
Anything else? Any breaking, any major stories here to make news that you'd like to put forth?
I don't know that I have any breaking news.
Anybody you want to fire on the air here? Anything like that?
Well, there's probably several people I'd like to fire. Some of them don't report to me, though, Paul, and so it makes it a little bit more complicated.
Have you heard anything from Washington as far as the infrastructure bill, or where we're going to be on that?
Look, the infrastructure is a piece of legislation that should be bipartisan. We should be able to agree on what infrastructure is, and we should be able to agree that we ought to spend enough resources to help improve infrastructure across the country while not bankrupting our kids and our grandkids. I hope the other side understands that. You
got it. Speaking of kids and grandkids, I don't think anybody with kids today, they know summertime is, especially in this part of the state, and I'm sure it's the same in other parts too, but you go by some of these fields and the soccer teams and the baseball teams, especially on the weekend, it's literally, I passed 2 or 3, and it's literally, I don't think I'm underestimating. I know it's hundreds, could be a few thousand people. They are packed, and it just shows that the parents are out there and they are involved, and I know you are with the soccer.
Well, no question. The life lessons learned on soccer fields and baseball fields and softball fields around this state and around this country are exceptionally important, and I'm proud that we live in a state that we've had our ballparks open really throughout the pandemic, and for those states that haven't, I hope those kids get that opportunity because they need it.
A lot of things going on down on the coast, too. We didn't have a chance to speak to that, but some of the happenings on the coast. We were looking at some of the numbers from the casinos, and the travel industry looks like it's going to kick back in full gear down on the coast.
It doesn't matter if it's a Monday, a Thursday, or a Sunday night. You cannot find a hotel room available on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Yeah. That's awesome.
And people don't understand this, but the convention business or the meeting business has come back fast and strong. As a matter of fact, we got some pretty good numbers from the Tunica area.
Yes.
And it's looking better than a lot of people expected.
We've gone through a long period of challenges in the Tunica area, driven largely by increased competition, but we certainly are holding our own there, and we're seeing people come back.
I believe next week our friend Austin Golding from Golding Barge is going to be in to talk about a multitude of things and job offerings, but also that Bridge 40. Mm-hmm. Do we know where that is now as far as the status of that thing? Is it?
I do not know. I have not heard an update in some period of time.
It's always good seeing you.
Always a pleasure.
The governor of the great state of Mississippi, Tate Reeves. Perez, I think we can say ciao and leave this till tomorrow morning to the Friday edition. See you then. Ciao.